Welcome to Something to Talk About. This is the first episode in what I'm intending to make into a series. There are also some other things I have ideas for series focused on different subjects. In this one, what I'm really trying to do is just present an idea or a concept to get you reflecting on the ramifications of it and coming out of it with some kind of actionable insight that you can take away and use to improve yourself as a trader. And we're going to start with some poetry. It's hard to get farther from the topic of trading than poetry, but that's where we're going to start. And I'm going to talk about a guy whose name is William Matthews, who's an American poet. He actually passed away back in 1997, and I've only read some of his work, but one piece that kind of stuck with me as it related to my professional life was this poem called Mingus at the Show Place. I think it's at the Show Place. I'll link to it in the description in case you're a poetry person. But in it, Matthews talks about being this 17-year-old kid who's an aspiring poet, and he ends up at this jazz club where Charles Mingus is playing. I think the club is in Washington, D.C. And he has this struggle where he's trying to accomplish being a poet. He sits down there and he's uncomfortable, kind of misunderstanding what he's there for, and he's trying to digest this experience of Charles Mingus's absolute mastery of jazz in the setting that this is in, and he writes a poem about it while he's there. And of course, the poem sucks, partly because he's 17, and secondly, because that's not really what being there is for. He failed to realize, and this is what he's writing in the poem, he wasn't realizing that what he actually needed to learn was something different. What I would kind of refer to as the first rule of becoming a master poet or a master at anything else, and that is to learn to be present in the moment that you're experiencing, or else you're going to miss out on what matters. It's a great distillation of the perils of that kind of self-delusion that ends up aiming you at the wrong things, and you miss out on the real opportunity that was before you as a result. And there's a lot in that kind of concept in that poem that he expresses that I think can be applied to pursuing the profession of trading. And speaking of Matthews and his poems, I'll give you another freebie. He has a poem that's called Right, R-I-G-H-T. It's actually about love, but if you imagine that what I'm about to talk about is actually talking about trading instead of about love, you'll get something worth taking some time later to reflect on. So here's the poem. The poem is about love in the context of a committed relationship. And Matthews talks about how you can wind up being so focused on getting something quote unquote right that you suck all the life out of what would otherwise be this amazing experience of love. If you would just ease up a little bit, things would be a lot better. But you're stuck on getting everything right. And there's a great line in this poem where he says, "What's truly yours you will learn irremediably from prison." And it absolutely nails the problem that if you keep obsessing about getting love right, you end up trapped in something that isn't love at all. And as I said at the beginning, if you really think about that idea as it relates to you in your trading work, there's some stuff there to chew on. That might be a little too abstract for some of you, but there you go. Anyway, let's get this thing back on track and move on from poetry. And, well, not exactly. Instead of just talking about things that Matthews has said in his poetry, let's actually start by talking about something that he never said, which is, unless a man has trained himself for his chance, the chance will only make him ridiculous. A great occasion is worth to a man exactly what his antecedents have enabled him to make of it. This is often attributed to Matthews, but there's no actual evidence that he ever said it. However, it does kind of align with some of the sentiments I've seen expressed in his poems, and it gives us something to really kind of get a handle on about thinking about the journey towards being a professional trader. There's some takeaways here that I want to go over. There's just 3 of them. The first one is that opportunity is going to expose the reality of what you're capable of. It is merciless. It will cut through all of your hopes and desires and your best intentions, and it will cut through your confidence, and it will wreck every illusion you have about your own ability until there's nothing left for you or anybody else to see except the brutal truth of how good you actually are. And we can make a whole other video probably about what happens when you try to avoid that truth once you are made aware of it, if it indicates that you're not up to the task. But I'm going to leave that to the psychologist. We're going to focus on making sure that you're prepared to get yourself skilled enough to make the most of opportunity when it does show up. Second observation: performance will never exceed your preparedness. Nobody ever rises to the occasion. That's a myth. The ceiling, and I would say the floor also of your performance in any given situation is going to be determined by the quality of your preparation beforehand, the depth and the breadth of your training, and how well prepared you are to meet that moment when it comes. Elite performers understand this, and they earn their mastery not through just kind of blindly repeating the steps of whatever they're performing, whatever their area of performance is, but through thorough training and preparation so that they're able to deliver excellence when it counts, when they're tired, when the weather's bad, whatever it may be, when adversity is confronting them at a moment when they need to excel, they're ready to do that because they're prepared. They don't operate from motivation or enthusiasm or confidence or hope or desperation or a bag of psychological tricks. They operate from a solid foundation of actual ability that's built in countless hours of rigorous training, day in and day out, and often for years on end. And that same thing is true for trading. If you're going to be aspire to be a good, proficient, professional trader, there's no shortcut for that. You might be thinking, well, I work full time. How's that supposed to work for me? Well, you have to kind of then accept that there's a fact that your journey to being ready to be a professional level trader is going to take you a lot more time. And I don't think I'm going to touch in this video on how much time exactly, but it's a bit of a road. And you should be thinking in terms of years, not in terms of months or a year, when you're talking about how long should it realistically take you to be prepared to trade as a full-time profession. I just came across, I have a note here in my notes that says, cancel ominous speech about the math of succeeding as a professional trader. I'll come around to that in future videos. We'll talk about that. But for now, I just want to keep the focus on how do you go about being ready to succeed. And that's all about the quality of your training and your preparation. And I don't mean your training or your preparation for trading the day. I mean, that's obviously a part of it. But I mean your bigger training and preparation to be capable of trading at a professional level. And lastly is the idea that the preparation I'm talking about begins with your understanding of what the real opportunity actually is. What is that great occasion? And I'll tell you what it's not. And this is where the video title came from. The real occasion, the real opportunity is not passing the tryout. Matthews, in his poem, he thought the opportunity was getting into that jazz club, hearing some jazz and writing a poem about it. But the real opportunity was learning to experience that moment in time. The poetry would come later. If you're preparing to be a person who can pass a tryout, that is not the same thing as preparing to be a competent professional trader. That may not make sense to you at this point, but trust me when I tell you. The first one is a game. If your focus is the tryout, you're essentially approaching the career of trading like you're a video gamer. And there are many people who would like you to do that, but we are not among them. We want you to understand how to be a capable trader, and the tryout will take care of itself. Because if you are able to trade at a professional level, then you'll be able to pass the tryout. It's not about gaming the parameters and figuring out what's the fastest way I can make it to the profit target. That kind of thinking is not going to lead you anywhere good in the long term. The tryout is not the opportunity. That is not your great occasion. The opportunity is a career as a professional trader, be it a part-time career or a full-time career or whatever. But that's the real thing to focus on. That is the genuine thing you want to make sure you're prepared to make the most of, not the frickin' tryout. The tryout is just a way to get to that real opportunity of being a professional trader. It's just a job interview. You need to obviously be prepared, just as you would for any job interview. But you absolutely must be prepared to do the actual job if you get hired. And I have been a bit surprised at the number of people I have encountered who have passed the tryout and did not seem to realize that. And those individuals are no longer on the desk. They're among those who are no longer on the desk. YouTube is full of videos talking about people telling you how to pass tryouts. And bucket shop prop places would love nothing better than for you to focus on that, because that's their game. It's not our game at Apteros, but that's what's going on out there. Is there's a whole ecosystem around getting you suckered into thinking that you should be working to pass the tryout. Do not be a sucker. Prepare yourself to be a competent professional, and passing the tryout is not going to be an issue for you. And there's such a huge difference when you get into the daily sort of ins and outs of what you're actually doing and how you're learning and building yourself as a trader, between the person who is coming at their trading like a gamer and the person who is coming at it like a professional. And I don't see enough people treating their trading like a profession, in spite of the fact that so many of them would tell me, yes, I want to be a professional trader. So just take that for what it's worth, and try to make sure that you are not someone in that camp who is not prepared. So what do you do with all of this? How do you take action on these ideas? The first thing is take responsibility for becoming a competent professional. If you're one of these people who's been just hyper-focused on, I got to figure out how to pass the tryout, abandon that. All ye who enter here, abandon that idea. Just let go of that kind of gamer mindset and turn your focus to, how do I become a competent, consistently profitable trader who's prepared to be doing this as a profession? Then I'll get to the tryout bit as a secondary thing. Next is build some solid daily habits. These are your foundation that will carry you through a successful professional career. And none of the four things I'm about to say to you here under this bullet point are new. I can almost guarantee, if you're watching this video, you've heard every one of these before. And I am the least, what's the word? I'm the least luminous person you will to have mentioned them, probably. Many other voices have come before me and talked about how important this is, and I am still stunned at how many people don't act on these things. But I'm telling you, these are the bread and butter of being an effective professional trader. And the very first one is knowing how to set effective daily process goals. You need to be an expert at this. You need to understand the difference between a process goal and an outcome goal. And more specifically, you need to know how to make process goals that are specific enough and that are actually actionable. I'm going to link in the description to an article that has some examples of good process goals. And it takes these sort of larger objectives like, I want to lose some weight, or I need to get better grades. And it converts them into, here's what process goals that would get you to that objective are. And so you'll have something you can look at. But look at all the examples of the process goals, bullet points, and those descriptions, and focus on the verbs. They are all actual actions, something someone can do, something specific they can do. And on occasion, I think there's a few in there that are like, I'm going to avoid doing fill in the blank. But those are all actionable. You know what's not actionable? The verb be. Be. That is not an action. It's a sort of a state of existing. So I can't count how many times I've read this as somebody's quote unquote process goal. I need to be more selective. That is probably true in many of those cases, but that is not a process goal. You need to know how to take that idea once you understand, you know what, I have a problem with my level of activity and I need to be more selective. You need to understand how to now go one step further and turn that into a practical, actionable thing that you can do at the end of the day that you can look back on and say, did I do that? And there's a yes or no answer to it that's very clear and very specific. So you need to become a great daily process goal person, and you need to make them every day. Even if tomorrow's goal ends up being the same one that you had for today because you haven't quite nailed it, that's fine. But this needs to be something that's just second nature to you, that every day you are setting a goal. Well, first you're reflecting on how well you did with executing the goal you had for the day that you're in, and then you need to use that to inform a good daily process goal for the next day. Next thing in this list is doing daily prep. Market prep is only a piece of this, but it's certainly a crucial piece. And so if you have a well-established market prep routine, that's a good place to start. But there are more things to this. If you think about, you're familiar from my my years of watching the Olympics back in, I think it was 2000, is the first time I saw Michael Phelps in the pool. And he was notorious for his kind of prep routines. He had his headphones in and he had this certain rhythm and routine that he went through before he got on the pool deck. And once he got on the pool deck, there was a separate set of actions he did on the deck there before he got ready to get into the water and actually swim. And there are some things like that that you're going to want to build into your preparation for the day as a trader that puts you in the right frame of mind, that puts you, in psychology, there's a term called activation, that gets you activated and ready to function at an optimal state for doing the best trading that you can do, and then doing your market prep so that you know what it is that you need to do, where opportunity is going to exist for you. But that's a key habit that you need to be in executing every day. The next thing is to do a daily review every day. I don't know how many times I've heard this talked about, and yet I'm still stunned at how many desk traders we get on the desk who just kind of do the bare minimum here. Certainly we have people who are doing a good job at this, but it's something that I have been shocked at how many people just really don't put the work in to do anything beyond the minimum that we ask of them for a daily review. So what does a good daily review consist of? You could take a bit of a deeper dive in this. If you go to the Apteros YouTube channel, there's a video on there where Merritt kind of walks through different types of reviews that you can do, and daily reviews are in there. At a minimum, I think you want to learn to do a review that includes, certainly if you're looking to become a trader on the Apteros desk at some point, you're going to want to be able to do your daily reviews at a minimum to what we ask you to do on the desk. And so here's what we expect every trader on the desk to be putting in their daily review every day. The first thing is their session P&L. We have that reported in dollars and in R, units of R. And that's something that you would benefit from looking at both of those things every day. Do not avoid the actual dollars that you are gaining or losing by hiding everything from yourself in R. It's fine to hide it from others because you don't necessarily want that info getting out in the public sphere because it relates to your own personal finances and things. But for yourself, you should be looking at that every day and thinking about what that says about your performance. Then you should go and include screenshots of your fills and any trade write-ups that you have for the day. And I should note here, if I didn't say this already, that writing up trades is not a review. That's preparing for a review. Think on that for a minute. I see a lot of people who mistake the idea that they wrote up their trades as that was their review. In your review, you should be doing something that lets you stand a bit further back and look at the whole day. How did you do as a trader in executing your process for the day? And how does that relate to your process goal, which is the next piece of this? If you're stuck on just trade write-ups, you're really not getting the perspective that you need to have. You're not looking at your work from the right level at the end of the day. So screenshots of your fills and trade write-ups, and then you address the process goal. What was your goal for the day, and how did you do on executing it? Then you connect that in the next section to, we ask traders to comment on their monthly goal, which is really kind of making sure that you maintain a connection between the bigger things that you're pursuing in your trading and how they show up in your day-to-day work of your process goals and your trading. After that, you want to note, what is something or some things that I really did well today? What are the strengths of my trading work today? And then what are some things I did poorly that I can improve on? Then we just have a section in our template for reviews. It's for other stuff. Anything else that you think is important for your own work and development, you want to include reflections on those things. And then lastly, include a process goal for the next day. As I said earlier, this might be a goal that's the same as you had for the current day because you need to keep working on it. But it might be something new based on the different things that you reflected on about what you did well and what you did poorly and how you executed on your process goal. But this needs to be something that just is a habit for you, not something that you kind of do when you have time. You'll be in a different place when you're scaled up and performing, really putting up solid results as a pro. Then I would argue this still needs to be something you do, but I could see someone letting this become a little bit less rigorous at that point. But certainly as a trader who hasn't even made it to the professional level yet, you should be like form a little cult with yourself about this. It should be so central to what you're doing. This is how you figure out how to grow. And if you don't do a daily review and actually think about your work, I don't know what to say. You're not going to get where you need to go. And I've seen this happen. Traders come on the desk. They don't know how to get a daily review done. They don't put in the work to learn how, despite our efforts to teach them. They stay stuck in the same place until eventually they kind of P&L themselves off the desk through underperformance. And it's a sad thing because you know they could have at least had a shot at doing better if they just put in the work to learn how to make themselves improve as a trader. This is very, very important as a habit. Lastly, ensure that you are connecting daily with other traders. This is also something that's really vital. I know you've heard Mara talk about this before. Think about this just from the aspect of, if you work on an actual physical prop desk, you have other colleagues in your office to learn from, to interact with, to get feedback from, or mentoring, or coaching, or even just shooting the breeze when there are slow times. And those relationships become important for things besides just the utility of trading itself. I'm going to talk more about this in another video. So because this is such an important thing, and I'll just kind of leave it at this for now, but I cannot overemphasize how important it is to make a habit of connecting with other traders on a day-to-day basis, because you don't have that office. And staying of colleagues and staying isolated is something that ultimately is going to work against you and your development. And I would say, of these four things, prioritize numbers 1 and 3 first. The daily process goals, getting good at those setting those, and that will actually feed the quality of your work in your daily reviews. But those two things I would say are absolutely critical to getting yourself positioned to be prepared to make the most of being a professional trader. After these two sort of major things, taking responsibility for becoming a competent professional and building solid daily habits, I would say do some work on practicing performing under pressure. And there's various expressions of this, but for the newer or the intermediate trader, I think this really does kind of come down to one thing, which would be getting used to being seen. This ties to what I said about connecting with other traders and being in a community, but you want to put yourself in a position to put your work out where others can see it and interact with you about it and get comfortable with other people seeing the ugly parts of your performance, the stuff that you would rather they not see, your failures, your tilts, and all of those things. You don't want to get so comfortable that you're just fine with it, but you need to get used to putting that level of transparency in your work out. Because if you wind up on a trading desk, people are going to see your work. There's going to be someone seeing your performance every day. And you don't want that to be the first place that you have to learn how to deal with how uncomfortable that can be when you're not doing well. Because it kind of has this knock-on effect of, okay, you're kind of not doing well and you got to deal with your own feelings about your performance itself, and then you got to deal on top of that with your feelings about other people seeing your performance and what they're going to think about it and whether or not it's going to affect your employment if the person who runs the firm is not happy with that performance. And then you have another losing day the next day and you get into this kind of death spiral. It's just not a good thing to arrive in this kind of environment without already being, I don't know that I would ever say comfortable, but without already being able to cope with that level of pressure of your work being observed by other people, and having that kind of ability to deal with transparency, even when that transparency is unpleasant. Obviously, this list is not comprehensive. Those are kind of the bullet points I have for, kind of making this into just a short, actionable thing. There are more things that you obviously could focus on, but these are what I would call the essentials of getting yourself prepared to be a professional trader. Make sure you check the links in the description for those process goal examples that are in that article, and also I'm going to throw a few extra links in there for fun as well. That's all I got for you in this one, and I'll see you in the next one.